Okay, it is 6 p.m. March 8th, 2022. I call this meeting of the Wellfleet Select Board to order in accordance with the temporary suspension and enhancement of the open meeting law as allowed by the General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The first order of business is announcements, open session, public comments. Public comments must be brief, and the board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. Before I go to you, Helen, I just have one, and that is that SPAT is, they've rescheduled to the 22nd. They'll introduce their new staff on that date. All right, Helen?
Yeah, sad to say, in the last couple of weeks, I've had new information about my health. I don't have cancer, but I have something else. And because of that, and because of the other obligations that I have to fulfill besides this job, which I love, I am not going to continue after this year. In other words, on May 2nd, we're going to have an annual election, and at that time, I will stop serving on the select board. Now, on March 11th, and the town clerk said I should announce this, so she didn't have to announce it, but she was going to announce that on March 11th, at the end of the day, is the last time that somebody can take out papers to run for select board. And last year we had a situation where, you know, we had a write-in candidate. We had two write-in candidates, John Wolf and Justina Carlson, and that worked. And that's all I have to say about this. But I'm going into my 23rd year serving the town on various boards and committees and so forth. And my 10th year, I'm finishing up my 10th year on the select board, and I love it. But the other stuff can't wait, and nobody else can do it. So I'm not going to be going on after the annual election on May 2nd. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be sad to see you go. So I know we're not really supposed to discuss things right now. I don't know if anybody who is civically inclined is watching or will watch this later. I would encourage them to consider running for office as well. So thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.
You've got another month and a half of me, so
yep. Charlie?
You know, thank you, Ryan. And I know we're not supposed to, but so if someone is interested, they'd have to go to the town clerk's office by Friday at 5 p.m. to take out papers. And then they would have to return those by Monday, the 14th by 5 p.m. So I just wanted to mention those details, and I know I'm violating your rules, but thank you, Helen. I've enjoyed working for you.
You've still got a month and a half. You mentioned
Well, he'll probably be gone before you are. So.
Oh God, don't say that.
Mike?
Yeah, I suppose I'll just announce that I am running again for select board to serve another term, and I'll be pulling my papers this week.
Okay. Janet, you're up for election too. Will you be running again?
Yes, I've taken papers out.
All right. All right.
May I add one thing, Ryan?
Go ahead, Ellen.
Just so that you understand, I'm not, you know, such a loose cannon as all that. I did check with both Mike and Janet if they were going to be continuing. And Janet, you know, what I said was if either one of them had made up their minds to not, you know, go for another term, that I would keep going for at least another year. But I'm very glad not to do that, and I really shouldn't. Thank you. I did check, so.
Okay. So on to the consent agenda. We have to pull item B, Housing Authority application. It's a governor's appointment. We do not have the authority to appoint anybody to the house or for this particular position until a certain number of days have elapsed since it was vacated. Other than that, so then I would just make a motion on the town accountant just for the simplicity. So I move to approve Nick Robinson as a town accountant for the town of Wellfleet.
Second,
Okay. Yep.
Is this our appointment?
It's to accept.
Accept, okay.
Okay. So sorry, I move to accept the appointment of Nick Robinson as the town accountant for the town of Wellfleet.
second,
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I think that by charter, we just have a right to sort of veto an appointment, but that we don't necessarily have to do this, but I'm happy to vote on it anyways.
Yeah, this is not to approve, it's to accept. So it's, yeah,
That's fine.
okay. Roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, aye.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay. Meeting rules. So I wanted to bring this back up because there's been a couple times where I don't know, we just are getting bogged down, I would say. One of the things is that I'm removing the COVID-19 updates and recommendations as a standing item from the agenda. If the majority of the board would like it to be, to continue on the agenda, I'll re-add it, but I would prefer to leave it off at this point. Mike?
I'm sorry, Ryan. I missed what you were just saying.
Okay, we had a standing agenda item of COVID-19 updates and recommendations.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry.
And I'm removing it going forward unless the majority of the board feels that it should remain as a standing agenda item.
I don't believe it should stay as a standing agenda item. If something comes up, we can always put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Yep.
And are there any questions or discussions about the rule, Janet?
So I was just wondering if we can incorporate them anywhere in our select board or town committee regulations or something, because it's kind of good for everyone to know who's on a committee, but I don't know where to put it. So.
Yeah, I don't have the energy to write another policy at this point.
No, I know, but I'm wondering, and we don't have to do it at this point. I'm just wondering whether we should keep it and put them, like, where would we put them?
I don't know.
Okay,
Policy,
all right.
maybe, but
I'll leave it.
Helen?
I'll leave it out. We'll think about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Helen?
Well, a lot of this we all try to comply with. But I have to say, having been on so many different groups, that people come in and sometimes they're new to the whole process of being on a town committee, Ryan. And it can take them a little bit to learn how to express themselves. And I feel that one of the most important things I can do in those situations is to be patient and to try to listen and understand what they're trying to say. Some people speak slowly, some people have trouble making their points and so forth. We know all that. But people generally try. I certainly do. I listen to see if somebody said something, and then I'll just say, I agree with that instead of saying it myself, which means I have to listen carefully. But I find this somewhat inhibiting. Some people speak slower. I try to speak slowly because I have been apt to speak too fast in the past. And it's hard to take something in if somebody is speaking too rapidly. And I agree with a lot of this, but if, for example, I want to know, I have a question, and I want to clarify why I have the question, which doesn't happen much, if at all. This is somewhat inhibiting, and there's nothing on here that we haven't been trying and succeeding in doing most of the time. I think there needs to be more leeway and patience, given that, at least for my part, and I'm speaking more than I usually do right now, I try very hard to discuss everything that we need to discuss in public, not to do it outside of meetings, and to make sure that we have a deliberation, because sometimes we have to respond to what the other board members have brought up that we may not have thought about or whatever. We have to be able to have a deliberation, and sometimes we do that very well. And sometimes, of course, it's annoying and it goes on too long, but it's better than not doing it at all. Thank you.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I don't understand what the issue is here. It's a simple question. Do we want to continue having the COVID-19 reports or not?
No, there's also guidance on how long to, how long to speak, to ask your questions.
Oh, okay.
Before you make a point. So yeah. And then to try not to repeat the same point multiple times during a conversation or a discussion, unless it's in response to a question. And then to stay within the agenda items or the motion that's on the table. So if that's helpful at all.
Yeah. I don't see
Okay.
anything unreasonable about that.
All right. So with that, I'd like to move on for the night. I mean, not for the night. Like, so I opened the public hearing for the addition in section, or actually, I'll just read the hearing notice. Where is it? I opened the public hearing in accordance with chapter MGL, chapter 30, sections 52, 57, 58, 60, and 68, and all applicable shellfish regulations for the addition to section 7.15.3, use of spat collection devices in the town of Wellfleet shellfishing policy and regulations to add a tagging requirement. Okay. So Nancy or somebody from the Shellfish Advisory.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to recuse myself formally before you begin the conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Nancy?
Hi.
I think Becca's here too, right?
I'm not sure. My phone has been weird. People didn't have the link, but maybe Becca's on now. Okay, so this is fairly simple. The regulations require that the Shellfish Department, so grant holders are allowed to put spat collecting devices in Chipman's Cove. Regulations state that they must have a wild commercial shellfishing permit for the town of Wellfleet, and they must have a propagation permit from the state. So we went out last year to determine, who had spat collectors out, and there was deer that was not tagged. So we can't do our job of ensuring that both of those criteria are met and that the people are compliant. So I brought this to Shellfish Advisory. There was very little discussion. Everybody supported it. It makes absolute sense. They tag everything else. So this will allow us to do our jobs in enforcement.
Okay, Helen?
I have a motion when you're ready.
I think we're ready. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, I move to amend the inclusion. I move to amend section 7.15.3, use of spat collecting devices in the town of Wellfleet's shellfishing policy and regulations as presented in the Select Board March 8, 2022 meeting packet.
Second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0 with one recuse. Yeah. Yep. So I closed the public hearing on the addition to 7.15.3. And then I opened the public hearing in accordance with MGL Chapter 130, Sections 52, 57, 58, 60, and 68, and all applicable shellfish regulations for addition to Section 7.23, extension of acreage without permission. The town of Wellfleet's shellfishing policy and regulations. Nancy or Becca, who will present. So, think of it.
I'll defer to
Okay.
Becca.
Yeah, try and get her to unmute.
Hey, I'm here.
All right.
As long as my internet holds. We had a lot of discussion about this, and you can see that we've changed some of the wording, and we are strongly encouraging people to work with the shellfish warden to make the best possible arrangements. I don't know.
Okay, so I have a couple of, and Nancy, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I felt there was some very good public discussions about this. And then we also took it to town council for some guidance and feedback.
Okay, so I would remove the word informally work with a shellfish constable, because if you're working within the regs, it's no longer informal. So I would remove, where it says, the first one is grants and dispute may informally work with a shellfish constable. I would just strike informally, may work with a shellfish constable. And then if the parties are unable to resolve a dispute at the, I would say with the shellfish constable or the boundaries with the shellfish constable, and strike out again at the informal level, because, the involvement of shellfish constable is considered a formal, a formal level. And then I did have one other thing, and that's the, as drafted, it removes the ability of the shellfish constable to cause for a grant to be resurveyed. It leaves it right now as it would make it so that only the complainant grant holder shall cause the license area to be resurveyed. I think it would be beneficial to include the shellfish constable there as well, if that makes sense. It should probably read after where it says at the informal level with a shellfish constable, the complainant grant holder, or yeah.
I think it was, I'm not sure, I'm gonna look it up. I have a feeling it was something that the town council wanted, but I don't have a problem with it, and we can wordsmith it.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to do that tonight or not. What's the feeling of the board, Helen?
I have a few other tweaks, and one of them was exactly what you said, Ryan. I think informal should be taken out of that. And just the language arrangement in the first sentence is a little awkward and a little confusing. The boundary points for their leases will be provided by the town to all grant holders, not in their leases.
It's in their leases, though. That's where they are. The final boundary points, once they've gone through the
on paper. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, in other words, but okay. I misunderstood that. So my reading of this stuff is pretty good, but never mind. Then down at the bottom, through a line from the bottom, just to change one word, adjust the aquaculture licenses, not the shellfish licenses. Because as you and I both know, there has been in the past confusion about what a license was. I've heard commercial permits referred to as licenses sometimes, and that's changed now. People are more clear about it, but just not to adjust the shellfish licenses, but the aquaculture licenses. just to change that one word, and agreeing with Ryan about informal. And I have a motion whenever you're ready.
So, and I would say the other thing is that, that I didn't notice it until Helen read the sentence. So boundary points will be provided by the town of Wellfleet to all grant holders. Shouldn't it be license holders?
Well, I prefer that.
Hold on, I'm just trying to get my my original back up so that I can keep up here.
Yeah.
Ryan, I prefer the term license holders.
Yeah, because that's consistent throughout the rest of the regs.
Pretty much, but not entirely.
John?
Yeah, there was another use of the word informal in there. If the parties are unable to resolve the boundary dispute at the informal level with the Shellfish Constable, do you want to amend that?
Yeah, that would have to be amended. That should be amended. It should be a dispute.
Okay.
Unable.
Okay.
Parties,
Okay.
yeah.
So where was I know that we said the shellfish licenses. So we're saying the grant, the aquaculture. Is that what we just said?
Yeah, third line from the bottom, see?
Yep. And then I am taking out at the informal level.
Yeah.
I am taking out informally work with. This was all stuff that town council put in, so. And then the town council is the one who changed the thing about the complainant grant shall cause.
Yeah, so that there could be a situation where the shellfish constable would choose to enforce something, you know, or the harbor master, for instance. So I would say the complainant grant holder or the shellfish constable shall cause the licensed area to be resurveyed by a registered civil engineer, if that makes sense.
Yes. How about the complainant grant holder and or the shellfish constable?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the first line where it says boundary points will be provided to the town of Wellfleet to all grant holders should instead say license holders.
To all license holders. Okay.
Yep.
Ryan?
Yep. Helen?
Yeah. So Nancy, here's me, a known quantity to you. And how about in their lease documents? Because a lease is something I would think would be like, I've signed leases, right? But lease document, I was a little confused. You know, a lease is sometimes what people call the actual piece of bottom. You know, it's on my lease or on my grant. People don't usually say, you know, my license acreage. But if you just added the word document, it's very clear that it's there and it doesn't change it.
Okay. Mike DeVasto.
Hi, I'm speaking on my own behalf here. Just a point of clarity. I believe that the town intentionally does not call them leases at all because it implies ownership of the land or the bottom. So that's why they're referred to as licenses. So it might behoove you to
change lease to license.
License documents, that's all.
Yeah, that makes sense to me as well.
License holders in their license documents.
Even though it's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Repetitive, yeah. Are we leaving in, sorry, I just missed this. So boundary points will be provided by the town of Wellfleet to all grant license holders?
No.
Okay, just license holders. Okay, in their license documents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Helen, and you have your hand up?
Sorry. Usually I'm good.
All right. So I move to, John?
Yeah, this addresses something that I think kind of came up during the discussion of that grant extension last week, where we will now, once these surveys are done, have a pretty firm idea of where the grants are and what their boundaries are for enforcement purposes. Is that right?
I mean, we already do. We have GIS points downloaded into our GPS that we use for our grant inspections and have been using for the past 2 years.
Oh, okay. Because I was under the impression that a lot of these grants were being resurveyed and that there was some question as to where the boundaries actually are, which is, why we can't always determine whether somebody's deliberately going outside their boundaries or if it was an honest mistake. And it seems like this is an effort to sort of tighten that up. Would that be accurate?
I think it came from a request for a public hearing from a grant holder to resolve a boundary dispute with a neighbor.
Okay.
That's where this came from. But there are some grants that are getting resurveyed. And there are some people who are looking into getting their grants resurveyed just because of the discussion and wanting to make sure that they're in the right places.
Okay. So I move to amend section 7. Yep.
May I?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I've written it all out carefully. I moved, and I'll send it to you, Rebecca. I move to approve the amendments to section 7.23, extension of acreage without permission, which is what it's called now, of the town's shellfishing policy and regulations as recommended by the Shellfish Advisory Board and included in the March 8th, 2022 Select Board packet and amended by the Select Board at that meeting.
Okay, second. Roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-0 with one recused. So I closed the hearing on section 7.23 and I opened the hearing on license number 792. Just for clarity, this hearing will be continued. So I move to continue the public hearing for license number 792 ARC to the Select Board meeting on March 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m.
1 second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Sorry, not having Mike kind of throws me off, so.
I know, me too.
All right, Mike, you can come back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so Rebecca, roughly, oh, you're on here somewhere.
Here, right here.
All right. So this kind of came out of a number of different conversations and recognizing a need is that, the ATA position has, I mean, so many responsibilities and Wellfleet needs to formalize its HR practices better, which involves a lot of additional work. So Rebecca, why don't you brief the board on it?
Okay. So I've been doing this position for close to a year now. I can't believe it's been a year. And I've realized that the HR portion of my position is kind of not getting the attention that it needs. I don't feel great about it. I know that there's certain policies and procedures that should be in place. Maybe they were in place before I started. It's kind of hard with the files in the office to sort of sort through that. But I did put together some notes, basically outlining some of the benefits for having an HR director. So I think number one would be the staffing. I think we need to strategically determine how to recruit and retain employees. That's pretty obvious. I think we need some basic workplace policies. We should orient our staff on policies and procedures such as compliance, schedules, safety, security, accountability, our compensation and benefits. We really need probably an outside study done for that, but we should really establish some legal and compliant, effective and attractive wages and benefits. A big one for me that I think that the organization could use is training and development. I think we need to ensure that the staff grows in the knowledge and understanding of their positions, and I think it would help the town expand and grow. Regulatory issues, I think complying with the increasing number of federal, state, local regulations. We need to be in compliance with those. A couple examples would be like, FMLA, workman's comp, all the COVID stuff that we just went through. A lot of stuff I was reading about was kind of after the fact. If we had an HR director, I think we could have utilized some of that stuff. So, other key points would be, performance reviews, contract and labor negotiations, time off requests. I know there is sort of a formal way to do that, but just having one centralized location. I think giving employees a safe, confidential place to discuss any personal or medical issues would be a great benefit to them, and educating employees on their benefits as well. I mean, we sort of, for onboarding, we send the new hire, I think 25 attachments via email. I know it's been hard with COVID, but I think having someone be able to come in, have a discussion about that paperwork would really help them. And then another major thing too, I've noticed, is having a secure location for personnel and medical records. There's some stuff on the computer. There's stuff scattered throughout different offices, depending on who is handling the personnel department. And I think having one centralized location for that would be beneficial. And, honestly, I really think it would build a collaborative work environment to just set some basic guidelines and carry out the policies and procedures. And the training and development, I think we really need to create, that culture where we offer the training and development that the employees need so that we can retain people. So I guess that's it. If you guys have questions, hopefully I can answer them.
Yep. I mean, basically anybody that's left has identified human resources as a critical need for staff right now as well. So John?
Would this, for instance, go towards improving procedures, disciplinary procedures within individual departments, which I'm not going to get into specifics, but there has been some serious oversights in that area.
Yeah, I think that would encompass that as well. I mean, I think when it comes to discipline issues, if there was an HR director, the TA and the ATA would probably be involved as well. But yeah.
Obviously, the department head would be the first person.
Yes. Yes.
But that hasn't always been the case.
No. I can share this document that I typed up if you guys want. I can email it to you tomorrow or tonight.
Yeah, that would be great. John, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, actually, I do have one more. We're talking about the possibility of hiring somebody for this position. How will this fit in budgetarily? I hate to raise that issue, but we do have to think about that.
Yep. So this isn't for this annual town meeting, probably. It'd be, the position needs to be scoped. And then, the compensation determined. It's a very tight timeline for this. If it was the annual town meeting, if we do have a fall town meeting, it might be appropriate. Then it would have to have funding dedicated to it.
I can see the advisability of it.
Yeah. Charlie, do you have anything to add on that?
Oh, thank you, Ryan. Well, I think Rebecca did a great job. Rebecca and I talk every day, either in person or on the phone, trying to figure out who's going to do what. And we try to be efficient with our time, so we're not both doing the same thing. But it's clear to me, and I've been here since May of 21, it's really an incredibly important task that is always secondary to everything else we do. And it shouldn't be that. It has to be, you know, a critical element of municipal government. You have, I forget, but, you know, between full and part-time people, over 250 employees. So, you know, it's a big element. And I think that, you know, yes, the disciplinary issues, but I think the consistency in terms of applying regulations and how we treat people is really important. But then training in enhancing, you know, capacity within the staff. And something we've been talking a little bit about is, you know, when you lose a person, if you don't have the bench strength to, you know, handle that vacancy, and you know, if you think about it, it's really what happened with the financial operations is a couple of critical vacancies, you know, and frankly, lack of training really has put the town in a difficult position, and you're paying for that now. So, you know, as they say, you know, don't make the same mistake twice. But yeah, I think this is something that Rebecca and I talk about a lot, and I think it should be a priority as you sort of project and plan going forward.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I just think it's clear that we need to have this in town with the number of employees we have, and just how much, you know, the town has really grown. The assistant town administrator's job expectations has grown over time. And I know when we had our last town accountant, I think a lot of the HR responsibilities were falling on the accountant while she was trying to, you know, sort of make her way through the mess that she had moved into. And it's just not really appropriate to be putting that kind of responsibility on an employee like that. That we have a lot of staff, and there's a lot of issues that are involved in HR. And I mean, most grocery stores have an HR department once they get to a certain size, you know, and you know, 250 employees is a lot. It's a lot. So we need consistency. We need to have expectations, job expectations from department heads to deliver down the line. And that sort of comes from that HR. So I'm in favor of this, but, you know, understandably, it's going to have to go through personnel board, right? For a new position and stuff like that before it even gets back to us. So,
you know, it depends if the personnel board is meeting. I don't think they've met in a long time. Helen?
Yeah, just about what you just said. You let them know that this is coming down the pike, and then they meet. They only meet for certain reasons. They don't meet regularly. That's the first thing. The second thing is I've been witness to some real HR disaster miseries created by TAs in the past. The TA, the town administrator, is as we all know, the supervisor for a lot of department heads. A lot of, you know, department heads are supervisors for their employees, and there have been some real problems in the past. And there's a very train wreck HR situation for an employee, and the problem is the town administrator. It has made very bad things happen, and we really need this if for that and nothing else. It's a skill set that isn't always available in the job job positions that we have. You know, some of our assistant town administrators have, you know, I mean, they could be psychotherapists, and others have other skills better than that, and it wouldn't be a good fit. Thank you.
Okay, John?
You know, would this have, for instance, had we had such a position in the past, perhaps favorably address the training issues surrounding the accounting software through you to Charlie or Becca or Rebecca?
Oh, well, yeah, I believe so, because, you know, when you hire somebody, you need to, you know, have a transition plan, right? And you invest a lot of money going through a recruitment and a hiring process. And part of, you know, so it doesn't end when they walk in the door. It's like our new treasurer started yesterday, Cameron Scott, but we're already working with him to provide training and orientation over a period of time. So, you know, but a good HR person would not only do that, but then would backstop that by checking periodically to make sure that things are going well. So yeah, definitely.
I was thinking more, you know, when we actually adopted the software more than just when we hired employees, to see to it that all of the employees concerned with that software would be up to speed with it.
Yeah, yeah.
That would center that authority with that person.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes on that front too. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So I move to request for Assistant Town Administrator Rebecca Ruffley to, I'm not sure the best words to use for this, to scope and define a potential HR director position and determine the appropriate compensation there too.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, aye.
1 second, Rebecca.
It can wait till you're done voting.
Okay.
If you want.
Okay. So
Aye.
Ryan, aye.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Rebecca?
I just want to point out that HR is not something that I dislike or anything like that. I've actually embraced it. It wasn't really one of my stronger skill sets when I was hired, and you know, if I had the time to give, you know, I think I've embraced it for the most part, but I would, you know, really put together the policies and procedures that the job needs. But I think having somebody else will definitely help the staff more. They really need it. It's lacking, and you know, we should be able to provide that to them. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming tonight. On to committee boards and updates. Sorry.
No, Rebecca flashed us something.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, look, see?
Oh.
Sorry, Brian.
Yep. Yeah, so SPAT's rescheduled to the 22nd now.
Don't worry.
So committee boards and updates. So Benjamin Fairbanks has a disclosure of a conflict of interest. He's not available tonight. So I said if there were any questions by members of the board, that I would reschedule it to the 15th. But if there are no questions or concerns, that we would move on it tonight, and I would let him know. So I guess, are there any questions or concerns by members of the board? Helen?
None, but I have a motion when you're ready.
Okay. Does anybody else have any issue with taking action tonight?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead, Helen.
As the appointing authority, as required by GL Chapter 268A, Section 19, we have reviewed the particular matter and the financial interest identified above by Roy, wait, what's his name? By Benjamin Fairbanks. By Benjamin Fairbanks. we have determined that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the municipality may expect from the employee, and to delegate the chair to sign this determination on our behalf, because you're supposed to sign, somebody's supposed to, the appointing authority is supposed to sign this and submit it probably to the town clerk. Yes, to the town clerk. Okay.
Okay. So second. Roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, aye.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. I'll let him know. So then annual town meeting. So Dan Silverman's on vacation. So he's not going to be here tonight, obviously, but he provided a memo as well. So I'm recommending that town meeting be moved to June 11th for all the reasons I highlighted in the memo I provided, and for the reasons that the town moderator, Dan Silverman, provided. And I have discussed this with administration as well. And Charlie, I'm just going to let you speak for yourself. So.
Hello. Yeah, of course, Ryan and I have been, and Dan and Fred McGee from the Finance Committee have been chatting periodically. And I think it's fair to say I had hoped to be further along in this process with relative to closing out 20 and 21, but here we are. We've had problems. So this would align us with a schedule to close out 2021, have the audit done, get free cash certified. And I did reach out to the Department of Revenue. Debbie Wagner is the Director of Accounts for the Division of Local Services. I reviewed the work plan and the timeline with her to make sure that the Department of Revenue would then be available and give priority to certifying Wellfleet's free cash. And I did get a really supportive response from Debbie Wagner, who's been really helpful. So I think this is a good plan. Now, recognizing that, Ryan talks about it a little bit further, but that then the overrides would have to be scheduled. We'd have to have a special election after this date. So,
yeah. I guess I move to reschedule the annual town meeting to June 11th, 2022 with backup dates of June 12th, June 18th, and June 19th.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, aye.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay.
One question for Charlie.
Yep.
So what would the date of this election then be?
That would be the next agenda item.
Okay, right. Thank you. Sorry.
So I have a question too.
Yep, John.
Is this meeting going to be outdoors, or are we back to doing indoor meetings so that we don't have to worry about what the weather is?
I would say that's to be determined. I don't know. We could go either way. So, we don't have to decide that tonight. We have time. And then the other part with town meeting is that I'm recommending, Dan Silverman's recommending that we split the warrant and have a fall town meeting in September. a number of departments also have similar comments to try to split it. I looked at how long last year's town meeting was, and it was 6.5 hours long. And I think with the warrant and the questions that the townspeople will have, if we go with the current warrant, we're looking at an 8 to maybe 10-hour town meeting. And I just think that's unsustainable, and it would make sense to deal with some items in the fall. Are there any comments on that?
No, I would just agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay Norton.
Thanks, Ryan. I just like to urge the board to try and make a decision sooner rather than later, if it's going to be outdoors or indoors, just because I know that the tent companies require a pretty lengthy notice to reserve a tent in June. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll wait until the town moderator is back, and then we'll discuss that then. So he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Kathleen.
Good evening, Select Board, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. I would not support a second town meeting. This comes up every year, and there's a significant cost in producing 2 town meetings. I just feel that with the fiscal constraints that the town is facing, going ahead to a planned town meeting, which can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 each town meeting. What's the message you're sending the community in spending money like this? I'm just reluctant to think that this is fiscally prudent in having 2 town meetings. We don't see other towns on the Cape do it very frequently because it gets very costly. The other thing is the warrant is likely to get weaned down significantly as you get closer to closing the draft, but ultimately it's your decision. I think that I really think that the town needs to tighten the belt financially, and this isn't one of those measures. So, thank you.
Okay. So Charlie, so what's common practice in other towns on the Cape?
Well, I honestly haven't done a complete survey of the other communities. I guess I can only really look at, my most recent experience, which is Brewster, and where I worked, and I'm still currently the town moderator. And you think about what we have on this warrant, and there's obviously the budget and the fiscal issues are central and paramount to the annual town meeting, but there's a lot of regulatory issues and zoning changes that are really important. And in Brewster, we had 2 town meetings every year, so we could, kind of respectfully manage people's time and how much they could absorb at any one time. So, if you want, I could do a little more work checking with other towns, but I just think, you think about the workload for the Finance Committee and the Select Board and our various boards and committees. And I just think you can give more attention to critical elements at each town meeting. So that's why I prefer, and in my whole time in Brewster, just about managed it in this manner. And I think too is if with COVID, of course, the costs have gotten higher because of tents and sound systems, but typically we run these in our municipal buildings, in our case, in your case, in your school. So I think the costs are relatively modest. You know, you have to produce a warrant, and you have some people that have to work to register people, but those can be contained. So anyway, that's what I think.
Okay, and then can you speak to some of the, you know, PG money, and that ability, the ability to use some of those funds to offset the cost of producing a town meeting?
Oh yeah, well, this is an appropriate cost. And you know, the nice thing about the public access monies is they can be used entirely for this. And you know, it's hard for me to tell because our accounting records are still being repaired, but it appears that you have the capacity within that appropriation, which is our share on the cable access bills, that amounts to about $140,000 a year. So it is nice because you have a revenue stream that can only be used for these types of purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that kind of minimizes or reduces the cost, and we can only use those funds for very specific reasons, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, through you to Charlie. How likely is it, do you think, that the warrant could be pared down enough to make a material difference in the length of the meeting? My reason for asking that is that I think it's unreasonable to ask citizens to sit through a 9 or 10 hour meeting. And I think it's crucial to have citizen input, especially given the issues that are facing the town.
Yeah. Through the chair.
Yep.
So I had a meeting last week with several department heads to really take a look at the warrant, mostly really the fiscal issues on the warrant. And I am working on a memo that I'll finish up by the end of the week before I leave for vacation that makes a series of recommendations to the select board on reducing a number of items on the warrant, things that, while they might be important, could be delayed till another day. And, you know, obviously that effort is mostly tied to trying to, you know, soften the impact on costs on taxpayers and spread them out over time. But I do think there's a number of, you know, bylaw changes and zoning changes, adoption of special, you know, enabling legislation that frankly could be delayed till sometime in the fall. We'd have to look at each one and discuss them, but I think it's entirely manageable.
Okay. Yeah. So 1 second. Janet?
So I think the important thing is that this is a long warrant. We haven't even looked at a number of items. We're working, or other people are working on getting the fiscal part ready. And once we find what's been taken care of there, then we'll be able to know what could be put on the warrant or what can be supported for the warrant. And I think you're saying like 8 or 10 hours. I think this warrant could be like 12 hours, you know. So if we do, I mean, unless we cut it down, but it's a pretty big warrant. We haven't even looked at a lot of, as we said, the zoning bylaw changes and things like that. And if we want to save money, we have it in the school. I mean, if everything's okay with COVID, to have it indoors. I know having it outdoors is more expensive. So I think we do need, there's some items that just aren't ready. Warrant has to be printed. When does the warrant have to be printed?
Well, with rescheduling the meeting or the annual to June 11th, it buys a little bit more time. But Charlie, when does the warrant?
Still the end of May, mid-May.
Yeah.
May
Yeah,
1st?
I'd have to verify that date now that we have a new date, but yeah.
Yeah, and I don't see very many articles coming off. There will be a handful that will, but the more we cut articles, the it's just work that we're not committing to do. So that Helen.
Yeah, a couple things. Nobody's talking about having an 8 or 9 hour town meeting. You go to 2 nights, sometimes you go to 3 nights.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And the town moderators, such as they are over the years, tend to, do that. The second thing is, I experienced a lot of specials thrown into the mix in the early 2000s. There were a couple of select boards that did it every year and sometimes more than once. And attendance was not the same way as when people think that's when it is. We're not going to go on vacation then if they're that involved. And they show up. And it has a kind of momentum to it that works well. There's a kind of communication thing that happens that works well over the years. I've been to every town meeting of any sort for the last 23 years. And then a lot before that, but not as many. But the other thing about it is, it isn't just the money. And yeah, it does cost some money. I agree with Kathleen. It's the staff time. And the last thing I want to say, I want to remind you all that a lot of these, 40 some odd articles are just no-brainers. They just happen in like 2 minutes.
We're up to like 60.
60, I know. But if you look at all the warrants for the last, 30 years, there are quite a few warrants that have that many articles. I wish Harry was here. And a lot of them are just slam dunks. So that's all I wanted to say. I won't be on the board then, but I'll be in the audience and I care. Thank you.
Okay, Charlie, you've probably had these conversations with staff. Can you kind of say what what the staff's preference is?
Well, I think in talking with staff over the last several weeks, let's face it, they're critically concerned about the financial basis for operating our, programs and departments in the new fiscal year. And I think there's a concern that's been expressed that that we need to be highly focused and prioritize those activities. So I think that's the biggest concern I've had in talking with people. And there are, I think, 64 or 65 articles on the warrant now, and it's true. I mean, a number of them move rapidly, and there might be a way to package maybe more of them in a consent calendar. But there's going to be a lot of overrides, it appears. I think that's the concern.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I've been in support of having 2 town meetings for a long time. I don't think we wind up with a representative democracy in these marathon town meetings that go on forever. As a parent of somebody who's 3 years old, it's just not tenable to be able to go through 3 town meetings in a row, 2-day town meetings or meetings that go till, 11 p.m. or till the deadline and have to be reconvened. The reality is there's not a lot going on during certain parts of the year. And I don't think that what I would say is a fairly menial cost of holding a town meeting in a town that has like a 20 something million dollar budget is worth the participation that we could have and the representative participation of families and people who have a hard time going to a 6-hour, 8-hour, or 2-day town meeting. And if there's that much to deal with, it makes sense to me to split it into 2 meetings. And I don't think 2 meetings a year is too much. And I frankly think that the people who sit through town meeting, by the end of it, would prefer that they didn't sit through a 7-hour town meeting. And we thank them all for their patience and you know, fortitude for sitting through the length of our town meetings. I mean, they can be absolute marathons, and you know, a lot of people just leave early, and we lose them and their votes and their participation and their voice on issues that are integral to the town. So I think it's important to split this up. It's a lot, you know, particularly this year. There's going to be a lot of discussion, you know, about budgetary stuff, and rightly so. So I think it makes sense. And I know it's been our moderator's preference to do this in 2 town meetings for some time now. And I've been in support of that. So I would like to do that going forward.
Okay, so with that, I would like to set a meeting or set a date for a special town meeting to happen on September 24th, 2022. That's the last week in the last weekend in September. And then to direct the town, ask the town administrator to work on dividing the current draft warrant into articles for the annual town meeting and articles for the special town meeting. John?
Now, this would require also scheduling an election after the special town meeting.
Yep. Yes, it would. So, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Charlie?
Yep. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll get Charlie go first.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. Well, I don't, I think there's a good chance that we could manage this so you wouldn't need another special election after the September town meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were only going to focus on regulatory zoning and then items that you would only fund if you had free cash, then you would avoid that. Because we're going to be setting the tax rate. If I were still here, which I won't be, but the goal of the town should be to set your tax rate sometime in late September, let's say by the end of October, you want your tax rate set. Well, then you can't have any overrides to add to that levy. So yeah, I don't think you'd need a special election unless you had some big special project.
Okay. So can I have a roll call vote?
Janet, I
just had a question about the date.
Yep.
Is that just, do we have to do it in September? Is that a time period that it needs to be done?
So in discussion with the town moderator, he prefers sometime in September.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I was just wondering if there was a reason why it was September. But.
Yeah. So.
And do we have to set the date right now, or are we doing that with intent?
I think it just provides some certainty for right now. And if we need to change the date later, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I know in the past there's like, you can set the date, but it can be altered until the warrant has to get printed. There's like a specific, okay.
Chief Hurley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Did I hear September 24th thrown out as a date?
Yes.
We have a triathlon that was approved by the board.
Okay. So then September, I don't know.
Can we just resolve to have a fall town meeting at this?
Yeah, do we have to set it? I agree.
Okay.
Do we have to set a date?
So we resolve to hold a fall town meeting. And I don't know. Yeah, sounds good.
We could do October too. I mean, depends on what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Why don't we just say date to be determined at a subsequent meeting?
Yeah, I just don't want to wait till like December. you know.
That's fine.
We'll remember.
All right. So kind of a roll call vote, or was it, or I'll second the motion and then kind of a roll call vote.
Janet, I. Somebody else go?
Don't you need to amend the motion?
I retract the motion.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right, so what is the motion now?
I move to hold a special town meeting in the fall with a date to be determined.
Okay.
Second.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, nay. Although, Mike, I did hear you. What you said was compelling to me, but Helen, nay.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. And then I move to ask the town administrator to work on what, separating, or what would be the appropriate verb here? Dividing the current draft for the annual town meeting warrant into a annual town meeting warrant and a warrant for the fall special town meeting.
Yeah, I like the word dividing. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, so we are on to determining a date for a special town meeting. Not special town meeting, special election.
Well, that should just be the following Monday or Tuesday after the special town meeting, right?
Yeah, so I'm recommending Monday, June 21st, because we have the, June 12th,
okay.
18th, and the 19th as the backup dates. So
I think Monday is the 20th, Ryan.
The 20th?
Yeah. I mean, you just said special election, but it's the regular election.
No, it's a special election.
Special.
All right.
So it is the 20th. So I move that the town hold a special election on June 20th, 2022. Helen?
I second it. For the point of discussion, I have a question for Charlie. Charlie, we did this at the last minute before the fiscal year change last year. Is there some issue about it being that close to the turnover of the year? Is there?
Well, we have to do it before June 30th.
Right, but was there some inconvenient crunch because of that? I'm sort of remembering that there might be.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that because when I had arrived, you had already established that date.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have the special election before the town meeting. I would prefer to avoid that again.
Oh, right.
Right.
Chief Hurley?
Sorry to keep the calendar tonight. That'll be the town's observance of Juneteenth Day. So town buildings will be closed.
Okay, so then the Tuesday the 21st. Sorry. So
the first day of summer.
Yeah. So I move. Thank you for catching that, Chief.
No problem. I had in my calendar. Kids had no school.
Yep. And the town employees are off that day too. So I move to hold a special town election on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. So administrators budget and administrators warrant articles. So first one is budget line items 114 through 196. I'm doing it by line items just because it's a lot. It takes up a lot less paper rather than listing each and every one. So Charlie?
So these budgets really, for the most part, just are level funded for the most part. They do include wage adjustments where appropriate for the Wellfleet Employee Association employees, because we have a contract that goes through June 30th, 2023. I think the only thing that I would like to amend in particular is under department number 124 for general administration. And in taking a look at the current shortfalls that I need a budgetary transfer for the current year, I'm going to have to increase the advertising expense from $8,000 to $12,000. We're really underfunded there. And I'm going to have to increase the budget for office supplies from $8,880 to $11,880. So other than that, I think the only thing that is really different and important to mention to the select board would be under budget number 135. We have added some money in there to retain Mary and Lisa on a part-time basis as we transition with our new finance team. But other than that, it's really the same staffing and programming that you currently have.
Okay. So I move to approve line items 114 through 196 as amended.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, line items 752 to 756. Sorry, gotta flip through pages here. Oh, shoot. I still have the enterprise funds to go. Sorry. Charlie.
So, yeah, thank you. So these are all the interest and principal payments on our bond anticipation notes. They're all listed by items as was approved by town meeting. So this is really part of our debt budget, and we have an obligation to fund these line items.
Okay. So I move to approve line items 752 through 756.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan,
Michael,
I. Sorry, Mike.
That's all right.
Helen?
Yeah, you guys both voted?
Yep.
Ellen, I.
Okay. So line items 820 through 945.
Thank you. So I think the only one thing I'd like to mention here is is that this really is paying for our contributions to Barnstable County Retirement District. And what we've done, that's on budget 911. And what we've done here is we've captured the prepayment. If we pay our full assessment right after July 1st, I forget the number off the top of my head, but we save about $35,000 in fees. So we've captured that in this budget. And in recent past, you've been paying for it in two payments, and it's advantageous to pay it all at once. And that includes workers' comp and unemployment insurance and in our healthcare contributions for our employees. So where possible, we've captured all our prepayment savings within this budget appropriation. So.
Okay, I think that makes, I mean, that's, yeah. So I move to approve line items 820 through 945.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I. So I have a question before we move on. Charlie, it has to do with budgets, town administrators' budgets, I guess. Do we have to start amending them based on a higher expected cost for fuel?
Well, you know, obviously we put this budget together with certain assumptions that are rapidly changing. So, you know, let me, you know, Lisa just got back from vacation today, and let me talk a little bit with Lisa and Mary about this, but it's definitely a concern.
Okay, I don't want the town to run in a situation where in June we have no gas because we can't pay for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how to handle that. All right, so.
You know, I think, and Ryan too, the Cape Cod Managers Association is going to be meeting Thursday in a Zoom meeting. So I'm going to try to attend that, and I'll sort of get a sense of what the other towns are thinking about doing as well.
Yeah, and the other thing there is, this is one of the reasons why I've been asking after the fuel tanks as well, because then we could get tax-free fuel and save. How much is it? Like 30 cents a gallon, essentially. I don't remember what the number is.
I think it's 24, but I'm 24. Not sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So business letter regarding H2Bs and J1s. I drafted this, and basically it's to kind of advocate for the local businesses who are going to be losing certain J1s from certain countries because of the conflict currently, unfortunately, which really is upsetting. But Helen?
Great letter. Thank you. Really timely. 2 syntax comments. Okay. On the second page, in the second paragraph down towards the bottom, long-standing connection to the countries affected by the Russian invasion, not embodied in. And below that, in the next paragraph, it is incredibly distressing. You could leave out incredibly, but that's a, you know, style choice. It is incredibly distressing to witness the Russian invasion. Okay?
Okay.
Leave out incredibly because it is really distressing, and that's common knowledge, but that's to you. Great letter. Thank you.
All right. And I do have a list of recipients now as well. Does the board want to review the list of recipients?
Can you please read it?
Yeah. Okay.
You can screen share it if you want, Ryan.
Yeah, that would be faster.
Thank you.
So, and some of them I'm still tracking down addresses for.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, good.
So, and it keeps going. So, local delegation.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse in there?
No, I don't. So I'll add it here.
I can put that on select board letterhead and send them out if you send me that list.
Yep. Yeah, I still have to find some of the addresses. So, but any other ones that we should add? So, Okay.
I think that covers it.
Yeah. So I move to approve. And how do we want to sign it?
I think we should all sign it.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You can sign it too, so if you don't get in there, I can stamp it and send them ASAP.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I move to approve and send the letter regarding HTBs and J1s as amended to the recipient list provide as reviewed in the select board meeting.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Oh, and I.
Okay. So financial work plan, Charlie, update on the town finances.
Yeah, thank you. As you know, Lisa and Mary took some well-deserved time off, and but they're back this week. And you know, I think there's a sense of relief, frankly, on the part of both of them, because the stress and pressure of serving as the interim treasurer and covering the full accounting office has just really been debilitating. So, I mean, there was definitely, like a sort of a bounce in their step today, because, our new treasurer is on board. And of course, you confirmed the hiring of a town accountant. So, they realized that there's still a lot to do, but they can now focus on finalizing that auditing review for FY20 and 21. So our goal is to get that done by late March or mid-April. I have talked, as I mentioned briefly earlier, to the Department of Revenue. I've talked to our auditors. So everything is in line to finish this task up sometime in May. And then at that time, once we close out 20 and 21, we'll give a more full report to the select board about some of the details of that. But as I say, now that we have some staff coming on board, it'll free them up to refocus their energies on the more critical review task. And as you know, it's really fiscal 20 that's the more challenging year. There's just so many errors and journal entry corrections that we've had to make that it just takes a long time. But anyway, as I say, we're feeling good, and we're sort of going to get back on task. So.
Yeah, it'd be great having them being able to devote the majority of their time to it. I mean, that would be huge.
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, you don't, I mean, I say it all the time, but, people thank me all the time. I'm very grateful to how courteous people are when they talk to me, but it's really Lisa and Mary that are in the trenches doing dogged and detailed work. So, really the lion's share of the credit goes to those two women.
Okay, are there any questions on this update? Okay, Helen?
Yeah, may we send them from all of us a formal thank you at present? Like we're talking about it, and I move that we ask the town administrator to express our extreme appreciation to these two employees.
Okay, second. Roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
So
Okay.
I would just like to throw it in that it shouldn't be up to the town administrator. It could be, but why don't we just have it come from us?
Yeah, well, whoever wants to deliver it,
And write it. So do you want to appoint someone, Ryan? Do you want to do it?
I'd prefer not to write too much right now.
Me too. Just to pass along the message, a formal vote is pretty sexy. I mean, it's, you know, got a certain amount of weight to it. Sorry.
They'll appreciate your comments tonight.
Yeah.
And your vote.
Well, I'll write something formal.
Okay.
Card or something or whatever. I'll think about it.
Thank you.
Okay. So is there anything else on the financial management work plan?
No, I guess, no. I have some other stuff in the warrant, but not in the work plan.
Okay. So then the increase in the residential exemptions ability to offset overrides and increase in town budget. So as you know, we increased the residential exemption from 20 to 25%, which means that the basically, what's the exact number? Yeah, that to the median household or the median house, the budgets can increase up to $848,000 without increasing the tax rate compared to the year prior for resident, you know, for properties claiming the residential exemption. So this kind of does, you know, increasing the exemption kind of, you know, it does help insulate the expected increase in the budgets to the residents of the town. Are there any questions about this?
Yeah, I've got one, Ryan.
Yep.
So who is proposing this, and is this fiscally sound, and has it been vetted?
We already did it. We did it in October in the annual tax classification hearing.
Okay, all right.
So where we moved the residential exemption from 20% to 25%. So.
Well, and so to that, I know we approved it in the fall. Is it something we want to keep? In other words, I'm asking if we're fiscally sound enough to increase the residential exemption.
We're not increasing it at this point. It's revenue neutral though.
Oh, that's right.
So Mike.
I was just going to say that it's revenue neutral, so it doesn't actually impact the actual income to the town. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to kind of bring this up so that it provides some clarity as to the relief that exemption increase provides to the residents of the town. Helen?
Yeah, and I'm usually thinking pretty clearly about this whole matter, but so we have 4,251 parcels in the town, and of that number in this coming year, we have 754 people who have asked for exemptions that will receive exemptions. And all the other people will have their taxes go up a little bit or quite a bit, depending on what their taxes are. So it's sort of interesting because a lot of those people whose taxes will go up, and we heard from some of them on another matter, people who don't like this for whatever reason. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, so their average taxes it's pretty minimal, the amount that it goes up by. It goes up by, I mean, they're paying the net increase for a medium valued house that doesn't receive the residential exemption is $217. And that's because of the makeup of our housing stock, where over 75% is seasonal, compared to the less than 25% that is, you know, occupied on a year-round basis. Mike.
Yeah, I basically was going to say the same thing. Because the exemption is divided out by around 75% of taxpayers, the burden shift is fairly small for the impact that it has on residents who are, struggling to stay here and commit to making it a home year round, and making this place a community for more than just a few months of the year. So I think it's important.
Yep. Okay, with that, I'd like to move on to the warrant. Charlie, are there any articles that you'd like to review tonight? I do have the energy and climate change article to be reviewed on the 15th. And I've let that committee know. And then, 1 second.
I wonder if there's a few, because it is kind of still early, if there's a few articles in here, I believe that are still relatively simple and straightforward. Maybe we could just jump back into the warrant and
yep, let's do that.
And just do a few.
Yep.
Now, I think I've been putting in the warrant in your package your votes. I should have looked at this earlier. I apologize. I think maybe we did vote to insert that. Okay, maybe we were up to article number, we did 21. Well, Ryan, my only concern is I was going to put a memo together by the end of the week to pull some of these items.
Yep.
And delay them, and I don't have that ready tonight. So the financial ones I would ask to hold off on. The CPA, Lisa is prioritizing the CPA over the next several days. I think we could jump to article number 41.
41 is
yeah.
Rescind debt authorizations.
How about article number 40, which is the easement for the Herring River Restoration Project?
Okay.
Relative to whether you want to at least vote to insert that. Obviously, it's critically important and it's not going to be delayed till the fall.
Okay, I move to insert an article into the annual town meeting warrant for the easement for the Herring River Restoration Project.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I. May we please correct the authorized in section C there, authorize the select board to enter into any and all. Thank you. That's not the board of selectmen. We've got a charter.
Yep, thank you. I'll correct that.
Okay.
And number 41 is, I believe, ready to insert and actually consider. But
okay. So these were authorizations that were authorized. What happens with the monies that were authorized?
So these monies, town authorized borrowing for these projects. These funds, these portions of these projects were not necessary and weren't borrowed. So for example, that the select board land acquisition, the $1 million, that was the Hilda Trust. And you didn't have to borrow the full authorization. So you're just relinquishing the authority to borrow it. It's good fiscal practice.
Okay.
And these projects are all done and complete.
Okay, so I move to insert and recommend article rescinding debt authorizations as drafted.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, and so that was both to insert and recommend.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
You want to do the Route 6 number 42 is that Route 6A Main Street intersection project that won't wait until the fall.
Right.
So.
All right.
Okay. So I move to insert article for Route 6 Main Street intersection project.
Do you want to do insert and recommend?
I think it would be better to do the recommendations separate for this one, just because I prefer not to have a lengthy. Yeah.
Okay, so I second inserting it.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, so then I move to recommend the Route 6 Main Street intersection project.
Second.
Second, okay.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, nay.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Or the recommendation, I should say the recommendation is 4-1 rather than the motion, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, 43 and 44, let me check with the town clerk on the urgency of those items, okay?
Yeah, I really like these articles, so.
Yeah.
I do too.
So.
Well, it's up to you, of course.
Yep.
Can we, have we all read the citizens petition tree preservation bylaw, which is based on the Orleans one, and I think is pretty damn good. Could we vote on, have we all read it? And if we have, can we vote to recommend it or not?
Can we wait a moment? Let's just go in order.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Is there a reason though, like that we shouldn't vote on 43 and 44?
The only reason is if you wanted me to pare down the warrant to reduce the
Okay,
number.
All right.
This
yeah,
okay.
But this could be in the fall.
So
Okay.
I wanted to respectfully ask the town clerk if, if she had if there was a problem with that delay.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Number 45 actually is important, and I wouldn't delay that in any manner.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, 1 second. Charlie, can you just
Yeah, so this is at the beach. Is it LeCount Hollow Beach at Grosse Hill Road?
That's
No, it's Newcomb Hollow, sorry.
Yeah.
Shows you from Brewster. So anyway, there's a pole that's currently located on this parking lot. I don't know who worked on it in the past, but somebody did in town. And someone went to the Board of Appeals to get permission to install an antenna, replace the pole that's on the town property and install an antenna by AT&T. And this is going to improve cell communications in that, critical area. The town would be leasing the property to AT&T for 10 years. And we would be receiving revenues in the approximate range of, off the top of my head, about $3,500 a year.
Okay. Before I go to Helen, I think we have to be a little bit more specific as to the area being leased, because this transfers, it transfers the care and custody of the entire parcel.
Yeah, why don't I get some more information for you? I wasn't quite prepared for this tonight anyway.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah.
Forgive me. Article 43 and Article 44 are identical. Is that true? They're just
no.
What is the difference?
One's general bylaws and one's zoning.
Yes, you're right about that. But
Yeah.
the thing that's missing from both of them, forgive me, I was looking at the text itself, is one of the most important things is that in both cases, the table of contents needs to be changed, because particularly in the general bylaws, it got really screwed up at some point, naming no names, in the last 10 years. And that needs to be included in this. In other words, and to have the table of contents, you know, be appropriately also adjusted. I mean, it's as bad as the sections have different names, they have different numbers, and I came across this with a real blooper that was not my fault at the time, back when Joe Powers was still our town clerk. So can we please include that in these two, you know, having the table of contents adjusted to agree with what's in the document?
Yeah, I would say check with Jennifer, because these say that the draft is on, she has the copy of the draft. So I would just check with her.
But that adjustment is not mentioned in here. And that is a very specific, somewhat time-consuming task. So if we're going to vote to do it, we need to include that, because everything else is included.
Yeah, I will check with her tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll take no action on article number 45. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Which one next, Charlie?
I would hold off on 46 until I give you more information.
Yeah.
That's a new article that I just put in there. Oh, article number 48, I believe we're in good shape on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've covered this. So I move to insert and recommend an article adopting the enabling legislation to establish speed limits for provisions of Chapter 90, Section 17C.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, aye.
Michael, aye.
Brian, aye.
Ellen, aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0, and that's to insert and recommend.
Thank you. 49, I was just something I wanted to do. It could wait till the fall, frankly.
Yeah, I'd still like to take action on the articles so that we don't leave a whole bunch hanging and let you determine.
Oh, okay,
you know,
that'd be great. Do you want me to explain this one?
Yeah, I would say one thing is that our general bylaws only allow the town administrator to dispose of property valued at less than $1,500.
Oh yeah, I think this is a little bit different. This is that's later on in the warrant.
Okay.
This one is I ran into it in Brewster, but where we issue, let's say for example, we issue a check to somebody and they never cash it. You'd be shocked, but it happens. We have to hold that for a period of time. And we have to do some issues with notice to people, which is fine. But then once we exhaust that process, we have to turn these uncollected, unclaimed assets over to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that's fine while they need money. This is a mechanism where those unclaimed properties or checks mostly could then be retained by the town of Wellfleet. And I had many years ago in Brewster, we had some land that we took by eminent domain from unknown owners, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in that situation, we were supposed to turn the money over to the Commonwealth of Mass. And we used this mechanism to retain those monies in town.
Hey, that sounds like a great idea. So I move to insert and recommend an article adopting and enabling legislation for the disposition of unclaimed property for the sections of section A of chapter 200A.
Ellen
Second.
second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I. Thank you, Charlie.
And I'm sorry, Ryan, was that insert and recommend or just insert?
Yes, insert
Okay.
and recommend.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I wrote it down properly. Thanks.
Yep.
I have a question about the discarded animal protection bylaw. And I'm completely good-natured about this one way or another. Do you want me to make it much simpler and resubmit?
There's a different one that's the animal control officer is reviewing now.
Well, that's good.
So,
I'm glad. He needs to get what he needs.
Yep.
Okay.
Janet, have you heard back from him?
No, but I forgot about this in announcements. Officer Keogh was in charge of the St. Patrick's Day parade in Yarmouth. So I think he's been a little busy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big event. So.
I'll ask him. I'm writing it down now. I'll just jiggle his memory.
Okay.
Am I to understand that this animal bylaw is not going to be included in the warrant as it's written?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
So you can strike this for now and just, there's a placeholder, I think, further up. Just retain the placeholder.
Okay.
And then we'll see what Officer Kehoe says.
What's
Okay.
the placeholder?
There was.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Do you have a number?
Well, the placeholder was just, John asked what the placeholder is.
Yep.
It's just the title and number of the article as a placeholder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's article number 47. It says bylaw amendment for animal control bylaw. And then text to be inserted. I think that might be the placeholder. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So this, okay. So okay. So I should get rid of this language and
Yes.
wait for Officer Keogh.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Zoning, we can skip the zoning ones.
Yeah.
That they're voted to insert and we're just waiting for the planning board, which might be an issue. Okay, what would be the next one? Or
I'm working my way through.
And to
Community impact fee, we already placed that, right? Or no?
yeah.
What number was that?
57.
So
we got to go back, I think, actually. Sorry.
I think 54 bylaw, the town bylaw amendment for the Natural Resources Advisory Board.
yeah.
So this is at the request of the NRAB, and they've requested, yeah. So I moved to insert. Oh, John Reel's actually on. Hey, I'll let him speak. So, John. Oh, where'd he go?
He's there. He's got to be unmuted.
Unmute.
Okay, there you go. We can hear you.
The reason I asked that the select board and town meeting consider this is that the original Natural Resource Advisory Board charter was voted by a town meeting in 1987. So I assumed that since it was voted by a town meeting, any changes had to be through the town meeting process.
Yep.
There are two main changes. One is we've already actually started work on a ponds plan. Herb Gestalter and Laura Hewitt are a subcommittee of the NRAB working on that. And the other reason is that in the original article, the original charter talked about the NRAB having a continuous review and updating of the shellfish management plan. And that's totally out of date now. We replace it with a statement saying that we will cooperate and work with other town committees on implementing the harbor plan.
Okay. is this bylaw amendment or just, I think it's amendment to the Natural Resource Advisory Board's charge.
Yeah, that's correct. It wouldn't be a bylaw amendment.
So I move to insert and recommend the article amending the Natural Resource Advisory Board's charge as presented.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chair, quickly.
Yep.
Just as a side note, I don't believe anywhere other than the charge for the NRAB is the Shellfish Management Plan written. So it may be something that needs to be codified into the Shellfish Advisory Board's charge.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for being on tonight, John.
Okay, thank you for the support.
Yep. Helen?
Yeah, follow-up question about the ADU bylaw housekeeping.
Yep. So we'll be covering that on the 15th.
But did it get sent to the planning board?
We haven't acted on it yet.
Okay.
So it will be on the 15th. What?
You have time.
Now we have a little bit more time.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll give a report on the select board reports about some of the issues that we're encountering. Charlie.
Number 55. That's a citizen petition. I don't know if you.
Okay.
Pilgrim.
Yeah. Did we vote to recommend on this? So
no,
I move to recommend the non-binding public advisory question for the on the Pilgrim Power Plant.
Ellen, second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay. So that's to recommend 5-0.
On 56, Ryan, did you already vote to insert those?
Yes.
Words? So I should list that in that manner.
Yeah. Yeah. 56, 57. Yeah. I think the article, I don't know, it's up to the board, but I think the article governing their use makes sense to be first because it's all encompassing, even if one fails, or if any future, yeah. Is that the order the select board wants it in?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was
All
that
right.
just insert, Ryan, or insert and recommend? I can't remember.
I think it was just insert.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Or did we vote to recommend? Mike, do you remember?
Was it the rental community impact fee they were talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah, we voted to recommend.
Yeah, I thought we did
1%.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a unanimous vote? I don't remember.
Yes.
As I recall, it was.
We can
Yes.
just vote again if anyone's uncomfortable.
I can go.
Let's
Yep, Helen.
wait. Let's just ask Rebecca to check what the vote was, please.
Okay. Yeah, I think she was trying to say that she'll check. Okay. So that's 58. Tree preservation resolution.
That's a citizen petition.
So I'm very confused with this. Helen?
Yeah. The kind of thing it might have prevented would have been that very, very old and very healthy copse of linden trees, basswood trees next to Cumberland Farms being destroyed, and other situations like that. And we know so much more we have so much more science about what trees do. And sure, we have a lot of trees here, but we can use as many as we can possibly have. And there's situations where people just go in and they don't cite things with respect for large mature trees. So you know, I'm happy to recommend it. You know, there are a couple of, you know, I always sort of am nitpicky about select board being one word because I was on the review committee, but otherwise I support it.
So it calls for the formation of a tree preservation bylaw committee to draft a bylaw. And then, I don't know, I really can't support some of these. The tree preservation bylaw will prohibit the removal of protected trees during construction for a period of time not to exceed 15 months prior to an application for demolition or building permit for, and then basically structures of almost any kind. And I just think it's, I mean, I like the intent of protecting trees. You know, I don't want to make it so difficult for an applicant to actually, you know, a 15-month basically demolition delay for a tree is kind of, you know, difficult.
True.
Janet?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, this is really the first we've seen of it and we haven't discussed it. And I think we should discuss it at another meeting. And you know, where I'm trying to quickly look to see if any of the people who presented it are on this meeting. But yeah, there are some things that could be reworded or thought about a little bit more. So I would like to postpone it. I'm for it. I'm for saving trees, but I think we have to have a broader discussion on it.
Mike?
Yeah, I think we have to place it. That's not really.
It has to be placed because it's petitioned.
But I do not feel comfortable voting to recommend it at this time. I have to actually really read it. I glanced over it, but I haven't really got into it. But I am largely in support of, you know, preserving trees. But I mean, my property that I have, we had to remove a bunch of pine trees that have pine borer that were close to the house. And I don't know, I just, at a certain point, it's like, I need to read it more. So I'll just leave it at that.
I agree with Mike. This is one of those well-intentioned articles that could have unintended consequences we need to pay some attention to.
Yeah, Helen?
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, we definitely shouldn't, you know, vote to recommend it before we've all had a chance to take it in. And one of the things that's not in it is language that says you don't just plant a replacement tree, you have to keep it alive, and that takes water, and that's not in there. And, you know, there's things about it I'm not in love with, but it's a petitioned article. So
yeah, so it's inserted automatically. I mean, but having to plant a new tree for every one that you cut down, I mean, how dense are you planting these trees in some locations if it's already heavily wooded?
it's over a certain size that you have to, you know, it's not every pine tree seedling.
6-inch diameter is pretty small, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a very big pine tree.
Yeah. All right. So, and then I would like to move on the ones that are voted together as a consent agenda. So I move to insert or recommend an article for the surplus property disposal, an article for the Mass DEP liability indemnification, an article for Nauset School assessment formula. Yeah. Is there a second?
And have a collection of taxes. Yeah, you missed that one.
Oh, and an article for the collection of taxes.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Oh, sorry, John. Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. I believe we still have to insert the tree preservation resolution, even though we're required to. I think we have to take that formal action to insert it?
No, it's just automatically inserted.
All right, thank you. I can remember.
Yeah, it's a citizen petition.
Yep.
Were those votes you just took, Ryan, and the board, were those just to insert, right?
No, insert and recommend.
Thank you. Okay, yep, good.
So, okay, so that basically covers the warrant. I guess, do we normally, so
I tell you what you voted to insert. 56, 57, 58 were all voted to insert. Only 56 was voted to insert and recommend.
Okay.
Okay, I'll update those for your next meeting.
Okay, I think the discussion was to allow other boards to weigh in on those. Mike?
No, I don't have my hand up anymore. Sorry.
Okay. So, so they're inserted, and then I guess I move to insert an article for reports of boards and committees, and an article for any other business.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen,
I. Do you guys typically recommend on those, or?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. On everything.
So I move to recommend the article for reports of boards and committees, and an article for any other business.
Second.
Okay. Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Helen, I.
Okay. Select board annual report. So that basically closed. We're done with the warrant. So, Helen?
Thank you for drafting it. There's one name that needs to be included because he did a lot of work. You've wonderfully listed the people that Charlie brought in to help with the financial situation. But before that happened with our previous town administrator, Richard Bienvenu did a lot of work.
Oh, yeah,
and Lisa Souvet also was brought in by our previous town administrator. So somehow the language should include them at that point because they were really there. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to try to avoid the whole about Richard Bienvenu, definitely. I wanted to try to avoid the explanation of Lisa resigning and then Charlie convincing her to come back on.
Yes, I understand all that, but you might just name the names, give them the credit and say, these people were helpful and not say who brought them back on or who, not refer to the two different town administrators. Because frankly, they did the work and that would be accurate and their names really should be in there all together without, if you know what I mean. I think that would be tactful and accurate. Thank you.
Okay, John?
Yeah, on the key milestones where the dredging of the inner basin of Wellfleet Marina was mentioned. In addition to the dredging task force, I think that the Marina Advisory Committee should come in for honorable mention there too. That they did a lot of work leading up to that over a long period of time.
This is an annual report, though, what the selectmen did, the select board did.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I mean,
yeah, I can try.
I'm not sure why. Then why are these other? I mean, why are they being mentioned at all then?
Because it was last year. So this is taken, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is pretty much taken from our meetings and it goes for the annual report, the booklet that comes out, and it's what the select board voted on, accomplished, created for the year.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
It is kind of also like what the town's accomplished in the year.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a little funny correction.
Okay.
And it is at the bottom of the first page where it starts off the Assistant Town Administrator, Rebecca Ruffley. And then it goes down to, we also need to thank Chief Polly for being willing to serve as acting town administrator. I think those should be two separate paragraphs. So someone can argue that, but I think that they need to be separated and thanked separately.
Yeah, I've always been told that you need at least 3 sentences for a paragraph.
Right, I know. But you have to put, there's got to be continuity there. So the beginning, the first sentence, then the following sentences kind of reflect back to the first sentence. So because this is a report, just like you do the key milestones down there, because it's a report rather than an essay, you can separate them, right, or you can make them a little longer. Now look, and there's another, I just dropped all my papers on the floor and they all spread out. So I can't find the corrected one.
Okay.
But I told Rebecca I would there are a couple typos, so I'll bring them to her tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some typos too, but I was just going to bring them to you. I can give them to Rebecca. It's units at 120 Payne Hollow, Duck Harbor Overwash, over is not capitalized.
Yeah, so let's just give them to Rebecca tomorrow. There's a couple in there.
Yeah, but thank you for writing it.
Yeah, very, very well done. In the past, Ryan, by the way, we just have the executive secretary do it. I think you're the first chair to actually take control of it.
So you should read some of the old ones. They're rather funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll work Richard Benvenu into the, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I'll make a note of that too and add it. Yeah.
Oh, and then I left a blank. Charlie, when do we expect the search committee to present finalists?
Well, I was gonna talk about that, but we're gonna be doing sort of a second tier interviews this coming Friday. And I think we'll be making some recommendations to you relatively soon thereafter.
Okay, so should I say the search committee will present their finalist committees to the select board in, I don't know.
Latter March.
Yeah.
March.
Yep.
Sorry, one more thing. So at the very end, you have us taking credit for something that we did not do. We got the right to farm bylaw on the warrant. We got the accessory dwelling unit bylaw on the warrant, but we didn't adopt it. And really, they weren't ours. You know, Mike did the one individual on the board, drafted and got the general bylaw for right to farm on, and other people did the ADU bylaw, and we put it on the warrant. But I don't think that you could say supported, you know, getting it on the warrant or something like that. We didn't adopt it.
Why not?
The town adopted it.
Yes.
Yes.
Not the select board.
It's a town's annual report, though.
Yeah.
No. These are like key milestones also of the town. What we think are key milestones for the town.
The select board also sponsored those bylaws, basically.
Okay, you could say sponsored or placed on the warrant. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Okay, I prefer
leaving it
as is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Anything else? So I moved to, I don't know.
I move to accept the select board report written and amended as written. And no, sorry, I move to accept the select board report for the annual town report as amended.
Hold second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Janet, aye.
Don, aye.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay. So I guess send the typos to, I don't know, Rebecca.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I can handle that.
Okay. All right. So select board reports. There's an article for the Open Space Committee transferring certain parcels to the Care and Custody Conservation Commission. Both Bruce Herter, the chair of Open Space Committee, and myself have communicated and provided the materials to the planning board multiple times to hold a public hearing as required. To date, they have not held a public hearing for these articles. And this goes back to October of last year. And I don't know. I might have it on the agenda on the 22nd. I just don't know what to do at this point because both Bruce Herter and myself have yeah, I don't know what to do. Basically, how to get them to hold a public hearing as required. John?
Would this be a deliberate refusal to hold a public hearing? I wonder if this is something town council should weigh in on.
No. You know what? I'll email them or call some of them and just say, get on it. That's all it is.
Well,
people are out of town.
Yeah. 1 second, Rebecca.
I spoke to the planning board secretary this morning, and we emailed the chair of the planning board and said it needs to be a public hearing ASAP. So I will let you know if they post a public hearing.
Okay, and we also need to be informed whenever they post a public hearing for the zoning articles that.
Yeah.
That, as far as I know, they haven't scheduled yet either. So if we had not moved the annual town meeting tonight, I don't think they would have had time to hold all these hearings. So Mike?
Oh, I was just going to say we could put it on the agenda if we can't do it and take a vote requesting that they take it up as a town meeting, as a public hearing, as a board, so that gets sent over to them. That we took some action first, but I think if Rebecca's reached out, we should just kind of see what happens now.
Yeah, and these have already been voted to give to the planning board for a public hearing.
I know.
So
just wanted to emphasize it.
Okay. Helen?
Yeah, I'm going to lower my hand, but we all remember that what happened last time and what an inconvenience it was.
Yeah.
Where they didn't post it in time. And you see, we can't tell them how to vote, but we can tell them how to comply with this kind of legal requirement. You know, we can address their process as a board. So I'm not sure that a vote wouldn't be useful.
Yeah, and they've known about this since the last annual town meeting where they pulled this article on town meeting floor. The planning board did.
Which article?
For the open space committee.
Yep. So
okay.
I'm not sure a vote wouldn't be within our purview. In other words, I don't think it's inappropriate.
No, that's why I made the comment I made, because it sounds like some kind of pressure needs to be applied.
Okay, so I'll put it as an agenda item on the meeting on the 22nd, just as a vote. Because right now it's a select board report, so we can't really take action. Okay, town administrators report. Or are there any others from members of the board?
No.
Okay. Town administrators report, Charlie.
Okay. So the water rate review process, we had another meeting on Monday of this week, and we're kind of closing in on a plan that we hope to present to the water commissioners for discussion, I believe in 3 weeks. So that's really gone well, and I'm very, there's just been great conversations, and with Jim Hood and Kurt Felix in particular, and Rebecca Ruffley. So anyway, it's going well. The town administrator search, I had mentioned in my report that we've met on March 3rd, 5th, and the 7th. And then we had another interview yesterday, and we have second round interviews this coming Friday, March 11th. The 11th. And then so we'll go through a conversation, but it looks like we're going to be presenting a slate of candidates to the select board quite soon. Not kind of nice, but we did receive notice that the Chapter 90 funding for Wellfleet for FY23 is going to be that $246,000. I've included that detail in the warrant. And then I saw this weekend, I was reading an MMA bulletin. There might be another special appropriation to increase that by half again. So that would be well-needed money for road maintenance for Wellfleet. Herring River Restoration Project is moving along really well. I noted in my report that we're working on an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Truro for that old Colony Road. And in fact, we did have a meeting, a Zoom meeting with Katie Klein from KP Law and several town officials from the town of Truro. And it was really productive. And we're working on some final language to present to the two boards, but it's been really, well received, and we appreciate their assistance. We filed that amendment, that water quality certification amendment for the 401 combined permit. The board had authorized that about 3 weeks ago, but Brian and I signed that, and that's been sent off to Mass DEP for the amendment. And if you hear from any residents in town, there are a number of locations where we do need easements on that low-lying road aspect of this project, and we sent those letters out last week. But there's been a lot of communication already between representatives from the Friends of Herring River and these property owners. So I think those issues are in relatively good shape. Jay Norton informed me that he went out to bid for some road resurfacing work in town. I've listed those roads, and that's kind of a nice process because it's through the Barnstable County regional bid, so it saves a lot of time and money. And then item number 6, the solar Wellfleet solar project is fully operational, so that's really great news. And then Brewster and Dennis in Wellfleet received a CDBG block grant in the amount of $1.3 million for home rehab projects and childcare voucher program. So that was nice news. And then on the website, there's a notice we're having the Wellfleet Transfer Station Amnesty Day on April 23rd, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have put some information on the website for citizens if they want to read a little bit more about that. That's all I have.
Okay. Helen, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, but I took it down. I'm sorry I didn't take it down. Sorry.
No, it was down. I just want to make sure. Now it's up.
Yeah, well, except that it doesn't always click. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions for Charlie? Okay. Seeing none. Topics for future discussion?
Yeah, lots.
Lots? Okay, Helen.
Okay. So one of the things was touched on briefly because of one of the articles. summer's rolling around, and it would be good to have some attention given to the Field Point Association Agreement and Article 46. Charlie said he was going to come back to us about that. So to have that be an agenda item before suddenly it's summer, because, you know, they've been pretty good about meeting us halfway. That's number one. Select board reports. We didn't do that yet, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, Jesus. Sorry. I had, Mike, you may want to do this, but Mike and I were both on March 1st at the state's second Shellfish Advisory Panel, which is a kind of reincarnation of, or a reconstituted by the Division of Marine Fisheries panel that is looking into various issues having to do with shellfishing. Bob Wallace used to be on it, the previous incarnation of it. And Mike, do you want to make a report on that, or do you want to let me do it?
You can do it, Helen. You can do it.
Isn't this future concerns?
No.
It is, but
Helen missed the select board reports, and Helen was trying to find a piece of paper, and this was kind of an important meeting. Mike is on that panel. Thank you, Mike.
I'm just to point out, I'm not serving as a select board member on that panel.
No, you're not. No, you're, yeah. And you were very clear about it, and Mike was great at it. And I just attended because a couple of people told me about it. So now to get back to future concerns. Sorry, Janet.
Stay on track, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. So I've heard from a number of people, and I think we need to maybe make another vote or to reconsider the situation about postings. We had a nice clear vote about that. We gave direction, and then perhaps there's not enough money. So through you, Ryan, a question on that matter. You have asked for more money for, what was it, advertising? It went up to 11,000. What was that line item called?
Is this to Charlie, or?
Yeah, through you.
Yeah, you said to me, so yeah.
Yeah,
Charlie?
yeah, advertising. I think I went up to 11,880. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in any case, not to discuss it now, but we voted to have the independent included, and there are issues about it, and it appears there's not enough money, according to someone. And meanwhile, we voted to have that be the paper of record.
No,
and
a paper record. So there's, yeah.
Anyway, we can't discuss it, but I'd like that on a future agenda. And the last thing I have to say is, so the minute we get the finalists for the TA, we need to have a meeting before we lose them. I know I've said this before, but it has to happen really quickly because they're all looking at other places too. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. Anything else?
Yep.
Okay.
Just to see where we're at, because I think I raised this the last time, and that is to put the Marina Parking on the agenda.
Yeah. I want to get through the budgets before we get to that, so that we can clear it.
Okay.
And I'm still tracking down a couple things on it. So, Janet,
can I say something? So, John, I was the liaison to that. The Marina Advisory Board was well represented at that. We spent a year and a half studying it. So maybe read the report or ask some people.
I have read the reports.
Yeah, Ginny Parker was on it. I mean, there were seven or nine people. So yeah, I don't know. Or ask somebody questions about why nothing has happened. Or if you want, you can call me and we won't deliberate. I'll just tell you about it.
Okay.
Because I know it's a big concern in everybody, but we did do a very good study.
I agree.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Correspondence and vacancies reports. Is there anything anybody wants to address on those?
Correspondence.
Helen?
Correspondence. We have gotten, at least we've gotten a number of letters about the ARC for the ARC hearing. And we've also gotten 3 remarkable research documents, or 3 emails containing research documents from Melissa Yao. One was with all about ARC. And also the select board each got quite a long letter from the corporation itself, ARC.
Yeah,
I just want to be sure.
Okay, we can't really discuss that right now.
No, I'm not discussing it. I'm bringing it up. I'm enumerating them and want to be sure to have those documents included in the packet for the hearing. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
No discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so minutes. Janet, I believe you said you had some amendments.
No, just to that one, that one letter that you wrote, just those little things. Nope.
Okay.
Not about the minutes.
Okay. So I move to approve the minutes for February 15th, 2022 and February 23rd, 2022 as drafted.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Ellen abstain.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. So I move to yeah.
Already.
Crap. Okay. So what date does that happen?
Saturday night.
Thursday night. Okay.
This
so that
week.
means
This week. Yeah.
that means our meeting switches to 7 p.m. So actually I have to do something then. So because I set the date and time for the continuation of the ARC hearing at 6. So I move to reconsider the continuation of the hearing for license number 792.
Well, we could also just not. We could just start the meeting at 6 too. This is not set in stone that when daylight savings comes, we change. It's always a vote. So, you know what I mean? If you want to keep it at 6, that's fine.
Let's keep it.
Why don't we just do that?
Yeah, let's just keep it at 6 for one more meeting and then we can go to 7.
Okay. So, Rebecca, can you update the posted time for the meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
You still have it 6 until April.
Yeah.
No, it's March 22nd, and the meeting schedule at 7.
Okay, I'll check 6 tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I move to adjourn.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Helen, I love you all.
All right,
Bye-bye.
good night, all.
Thank you.
It's 8:30. We did good.
Janet, we'll talk this week sometime.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah. When's a good time to call you? I don't know your schedule.
I don't either.
When are you awake?
Most of the time.
You call me.
Okay.
It's a very short thing. I mean, I could tell you right now.
No.
And I will tell you right now. Can I tell you right now? Where's Ryan?
I'm
So
logging out.